Martial law was declared 2 hours ago.
There's no cure. You're a fighter.
She's more powerful than any of us. What is it? Michael.
The movie opens up the future of Underworlds by having a story that does not feel complete at the end of the movie. At the end of the movie, you have Celine now united with her daughter, and them joined together, and they're seeking to reconcile or to find Michael, who's disappeared. So you really feel that the franchise must go on from this point. The two characters that we've brought to the movie that are new are India Isley as Eve, her daughter, and Theo James plays David, a young vampire, who I've always sort of felt sort of Lancelot to Celine's Guinevere. He's intrigued with her, and I think he's also intrigued with her daughter.
I used to hear stories of the death dealers. That they were a thing of the past.
And this time we have Charles Dance, who's terrific, and Stephen Ray, Theo James, fantastic, Michael Ealy, and then India Isley, who came in and auditioned against a lot of the other actors.
Ready, action.
I think certainly that you're going to see prominent roles for Eve and David in future Underworld films, and I believe Thomas, played by Charles Dance, as well.
When you leave, take me with you.
In the original Underworlds, there was always a great fear that lichen blood and vampire blood would combine and create a child. Well, as it would happen in Underworld 4, Michael and Celine create this child. She is the combination.
Look at the eyes.
She has eyes that are half vampire and half lichen. She has the ability to transform never into a full lichen, but has the claws of a lichen, but the teeth of a vampire.
She's one of a kind, you know, in the story.
She is the last direct descendant of Alexander Corvinus. The only hybrid child that has ever existed.
The moment we met India, she has an exotic quality to her, and we also believe that she could credibly be Kate's daughter, you know, in terms of a look and a style and a ambiance and a beauty.
Look up. Pull back. Good, India, you're in the zone.
I turned to Gary Lucchese, was behind me, and said, "This is the girl. We don't need to see anyone." And Gary, who's done like 60 movies, he says, "Yes, this is the girl." And we finished the audition there. Kate is married to Len, who is the creator of Underworld. He's director, great director. And anyway, Kate and Len was in Starbucks or somewhere, and Kate said, "Look, that looks like a little mini-me," she said, pointed at India. Len looks, sees her, and he's like, "Holy shit. That's the girl I saw on because we sent her the night before to him, say, what about this girl?" Yeah. And it's
What are the odds? What are the odds?
This is in LA, you know, how many people live there? 12 million. It's crazy.
Do you know her?
No.
Celine's kind of taken aback that she even has a child, and she's a bit disappointed that it's not Michael when she's looking for the hybrid. But it adds a completely different dimension to the film to have the mother-daughter situation and relationship.
What's your name?
Subject 2, and you were subject 1.
Subject 2, or Eve, is the last descendant of Alexander Corvinus, which we saw in part 2. And it's a way of keeping the mythology and the whole story of Underworld alive.
She has no origin bite marks.
Eve's not just a regular hybrid, she's a lichen vampire hybrid, so she's the first of her kind. And because her father Michael was a hybrid, she's a double pillar of strength, really.
It's so sad that this person only have that name.
She's never stepped foot outside the lab. How can she possibly survive?
She's new to everything, and Eve's constantly experiencing these things all at the same time, but they're all things that she wasn't even aware existed. So she's still trying to process things throughout the entire film.
Those eyes. They're special. I know exactly what you are.
Charles Dance plays the elder vampire who's the head of one of the few remaining vampire covens that exist. And they've been in hiding, and they're no longer as wealthy and as powerful as vampires used to be. Charles is a very elegant, stentorian presence.
Do you think I'm foolish enough to take you at your word? He feels the threat has become too great, really. And he has a strong sense of self-preservation.
Are you mad? We have no more than a handful of fighters. We will be annihilated.
It's something with his voice. I mean, he's tall as hell, so it's very imposing. But it's also his voice. I said, you can talk about pebbles and dirt, and I would still listen, because it's just one of those voices that you can say anything.
No, his presence is great.
Really?
Pay heed to me! We meet Thomas in his coven. We're a threatened species, we vampires. And we have this place of sanctuary, and there is a general agreement that we don't bring strangers into it. I am quite paternal, although he does tend to annoy me rather a lot, and I shout at him a great deal. But I'm very unhappy when he shuffles off his immortal coil.
Our coven is destroyed. My son is dead.
But then, thankfully, Kate is around to revive him, and that's a cup of warm blood, and he's fine.
He has enormous respect for his father, but at the same time, he's frustrated that his father isn't responding.
What's your plan, Father?
David originally had a smaller role in the film, but we liked Theo James so much that we brought him back for the final scene. Originally, he was not supposed to be in the garage scene at all, but suddenly he shows up.
Get away from her!
He basically represents the younger vampires who believe that the only way that they can really truly survive is to revolt against the genocide of the humans. Whereas the oldest, his father and the older vampires, some of the older elite, have got to a place where they're running and hiding, and they think that their only way of survival is maybe, as they have done through the centuries, is to be subtle about it.
This is cowardice, plain and simple. How dare you? How dare you do so little?
He is rebellious because he knows that that's the only way of survival.
We stand and we fight.
You knew the lichens were not extinct. How?
Just a feeling.
I'm not good with feelings.
When the movie opens, as far as Celine knows, and everybody else seems to think, that lichens are extinct.
Well, the government declared mission accomplished on all lichens. Feds announced that we were to only focus on your kind now.
Sebastian knows that that's not the case, and he and Celine, in their partnership, they mutually discover that Antigen is actually a place where they're not only breeding lichens, but they're breeding like uber lichens.
If you write about Antigen, who knows how many lichens are going to be hiding in there?
What really attracted me to the story was the fact that Detective Sebastian represents the human dynamic that has been, in my opinion, somewhat missing from some of the other films. A lot of the other films are dominated by the lifestyle of vampires and werewolves, and so this one we get a chance to see what it's like for a human to live amongst them.
Ready and action.
Antigen is the nemesis of the vampires in this movie, and it's run by this character Jacob, who's played by Stephen Ray, who's a mild but occasionally very, very angry bad guy, and he has a son named Quint.
Everything's worked out, just as we'd hoped. You're the first proof of it.
Dr. Lane is trying to create a source of genetic material so that they can use it for cloning lichens.
An entire species saved from extinction. No more hiding. Every lichen under our command is powerful as you are.
Quint transforms into the Uber lichen. Some of the fun things that I get to do is when I transform into him and come out of him is kind of trying to harness that energy and like just seeing what the hell it would feel like to transform from this monstrous creature back into Quint.
We wanted to take the performance of Chris and really embed his performance in the Uber so that we could see some of his movements and you could recognize it from the actor that you would have spent time with as a human being. We'd never done any mocap before in the Underworld pictures. We decided to bring Chris in and do some pretty intensive couple-day sessions with him just to try to pull out of him a performance that we could then use in the Uber. And also in many ways he helped us to figure out, just the basic actions for the creature.
We showed him some concept art, how big it was. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's me. And that made so much for him to see those images. And you can tell that he really uses that. He has this enormous creatures within him.
I heal instantly.
Basically, they've taken the genetic code from Eve. She is the future for us. That's kind of what informs Quint's motivation, It's down to survival now.
They're using silver nitrate gas. Bombs on all the floors. Subject 1. We need to evacuate.
Fine. He's trying to preserve the life of his own species. So in terms of his own species, he's quite noble, I suppose. But he's ruthless in his intention and doesn't care who he destroys to make that happen.
In Underworld 4, it's a strong parenthood theme, actually. It's not visible when you look at it, because you're going to see bam, bam, bam. But I think those kind of themes makes the film tight.
But Celine has a daughter, and Thomas and David in the Coven, also father and son. So
there's a strong blood.
Maybe it's not that apparent when you see it, but we thought it was a nice theme to keep going, to make it extra interesting.
You came back for me.